And today, like Tom was saying, we have a hot topic around AI. And I know, especially this year, the word AI has been thrown around a lot and used in different ways. Tom, you even mentioned ChatGPT. We'll make sure to touch on that. But with AI comes, of course, different threats, but also some protective measures that you can utilize AI to overall protect your business and your organization as a whole. Now, a little bit about us. Some things have changed this year. Some of you attending, or this may be your first time hearing about us today, you may have known us by Kirkham IT or Iron Tech Security, both well-known names and industry-leading organizations. And this year, we've combined them as one, and now we're at Kirkham Iron Tech. And so with that comes a new website, lots of new offerings. And so if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out. But we've combined, like you said, you see, the best of both worlds regarding security and IT. And we'll talk a little bit more about overall what we offer and how we offer our IT and security services as we go along. A little bit about me. It says security expert. I give all the credit to our tech engineers and our IT and cybersecurity specialists. But you can consider me possibly a IT or security consultant. I specifically work with organizations to help them evaluate their current infrastructure. And in that process, we reveal any potential vulnerabilities or overall gaps within your IT infrastructure and overall cybersecurity infrastructure. And from that, we take that evaluation, and I work with you to build a plan to address those potential vulnerabilities or fill those gaps that you may have. And then, of course, from there, help you implement those plans as well. Now, aside from IT and cybersecurity, I also like to dabble a little bit in Little League coaching and basketball, baseball, done T-ball coaching for 8 years. And from there, I've learned a lot of patience. And so if anyone is ever interested in volunteer coaching and needs help and patience, that is the route to go. But of course, love to be involved in my community. And one thing I love to do on these deeper dives, I am a food connoisseur. So if you have a interesting food or meal or dish that I should try, I know we have people from all over the US, throw that in the chat. I always like to make a list of those. And when I'm traveling, hopefully try out a dish or two when I can. But I want to make sure also, if you do have any questions before we get started, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll try to answer them during the webinar, but of course, if we don't get it to them during, we'll definitely get to them at the end of the webinar and make sure to answer all your questions. Now, what we do at Kirkham Iron Tech is a little bit different than most organizations. We have a very wide variety of tools and services, and we cater all of our offerings specific to each client and really partner that we interact with. And so, of course, we have managed cybersecurity services, whereas maybe you have IT in place and you're happy with them. They're doing a great job. But of course, you understand that there is a difference in objectives between IT and security. And so you want to make sure your security is addressed, and you want to bring those specialists in to manage it for you so you don't have to worry about it. We take care of that, and we partner with your IT to take care of all the cybersecurity needs that you may have. But maybe you're the one that also needs IT improvement as well as the security side of things. Well, we can take care of everything regarding IT and security. And then we also have offerings where you may have maybe an IT person on staff, or a team of 2 or 3, whatever that team may be, and they need some assistance regarding productivity or just overall maybe help desk support, but also that need for security is there as well. And you want to bring in those specialists. We have those offerings as well. And like I said, we cater these and customize them to fit your specific needs. And over time, our team has been able to do a great job of that. And of course, the partnership approach is really what we pride ourselves on with all of our clients. Now, you know a little bit about us, you know a little bit about me, and the reason we really came here today is to talk about AI. And jumping right into it, it brings us to the point of antivirus. It's a security tool that probably everyone here on this webinar has relied on for a very, very, very long time. And some of the common antiviruses are Norton, McAfee, some antiviruses that you can buy off the shelf, threw them on your computer maybe 5-10 years ago, and haven't touched it since. Hopefully it's working. Well, over time, technology has changed, it's adapted. And with that, threats have changed. And cybersecurity tools have needed to change as well. And the reasoning why, I won't get too deep into the weeds here, but the way an antivirus works is that it relies on known and known malicious virus signatures. And for, of course, those signatures to be known malicious, there has to be some successful attacks in the past. You can probably go back 2 or 3 months. And then for those signatures to be known malicious, successful attacks, and now all of those antiviruses are updated to look for these specific known to be malicious signatures. And that's just the way it's been done for a very long time. But like I said, technology has changed and cyber threats have changed as well. And with that, ransomware attacks, malware attacks, overall cyber attacks really don't, or most cyber attacks really don't contain those virus signatures anymore. And so you may hear us say, and other cybersecurity professionals say this as well, that antiviruses are somewhat useless just because they're looking for something that's not there anymore. And so regarding just solely relying on an antivirus tool, it's not good enough anymore. And it basically, to me, I think of it as like I'm getting a new apartment here soon with my wife, and making sure all the locks are good on the windows and on the doors. And to me, using an antivirus is like putting a stick in between the door and hoping that keeps the criminals out. It's just not efficient anymore. It doesn't do what you need it to do. And so you need to update your security and adapt with the changes of threats and overall stay ahead of the game instead of trying to catch up with the new changes that are coming every single day, really. And so, buzzword alert, don't freak out, but the word is AI. So what is AI? And so I'm not going to read the screen to you, but all of you have probably been hearing about it and wondering, well, why is it so important now? So AI, of course, is artificial intelligence, and you can read the actual definition above, but overall, AI is extremely important now because it's introduced new risks and new threats that really were non-existent before. And all of those new threats are coming in waves now. And of course, like I said, technology is adapting, and overall technology is advancing by utilizing artificial intelligence. And with that, as technology advances, cyber threats are increasingly advancing at a rate that most companies and businesses aren't prepared for. And so with that, as we talked about, your cyber defenses have to adapt as well and advance as well, utilizing artificial intelligence. Now, excuse me, artificial intelligence, of course, has its pros, but with it comes a lot of different risks. Now, artificial intelligence has really increased the speed, efficiency, and effectiveness of cyber threats. AI overall has made it easier to mass produce and overall generate these different cyber attacks while making them more efficient and more effective. And one reason is because now these cyber criminals are not just limited by the knowledge they have of creating a cyber attack or how well they are, and they're not limited by the overall time it may take to create an effective cyber attack. Artificial intelligence has filled those gaps of knowledge of becoming a cyber criminal and creating those attacks, and has filled the gap of time because it can create all of those, the different code. And we'll talk about different code and phishing emails. It can create all of those effective methods of having a successful cyber attack in seconds. And so before artificial intelligence has blown up in the past year, cyber threats were already increasing. And now with the new popularity of utilizing AI, I suspect, and I know Tom probably predicts as well, that just the overall sheer increase of successful cyber attacks is going to skyrocket. And I suspect by the end of the year, Tom, I'm assuming you probably predict sooner than that. But
yeah, the you know, the old statistic that says that 95% of breaches are caused by human error, and the vast majority of attacks are fully automated. They're not targeted attacks. In other words, they're not investing time, money, and energy into researching the potential victims. You know, it says, hey there, or whatever. And so what's going to happen, and what already is happening, is now they can produce targeted phishing emails and other things to where they identify the relationships within an organization, from, you know, the president and who works for the president and what does accounting do and who is in the accounting department and all these different things. And what we are going to see as soon as the research comes out is that number is going to go from 95% of breaches are caused because of humans being conned. Okay. But now these automated attacks are going to be automatically targeted, personalized. So we're going to see that number go 96%, 97%, maybe even 98%. And that's a big problem. It's much easier to fool people when those phishing emails and other things are personalized.
no, and I'm glad you mentioned specifically phishing emails. I'm assuming most likely everyone here has received at least maybe one phishing email in their life, or they know someone that has received a phishing email, most likely even fell victim to a phishing email. And the days of receiving a phishing email and there being misspelled words or just overall poor grammar, or it sounding completely different than what the person that's trying to impersonate sounds like, those days are gone. And that's a big part of artificial intelligence, because by utilizing AI, they're able to look up an organization, find out who the CEO is, how long they've been there, all these specific personal facts, and utilize those in those phishing emails. And some tools are even able to understand the tendencies that those specific users may use in their email. It could be an email compromise, and now a cyber criminal has access to all of their emails, and they take all of that data and within seconds can curate a specific personalized phishing email to maybe accounting that sounds exactly like the CEO of that company would sound like, the tendencies that they use in the grammar, and send out mass emails that are extremely hard to detect because of that huge rate of human error and how successful it is. Makes it even harder on the average employee. And regarding human error, that's a whole different beast that we can discuss and how to combat that. But that's just one risk that comes with AI. Now you see deep fakes and voice clones. That's something that, to me, I've actually experienced a personal example of this. My brother-in-law, he wanted to create a motivational speech for his son. His son's like 8 years old, had a baseball game, and he wanted it to sound like it was coming from Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. And so he utilized AI, said, hey, create me a motivational speech and make my voice sound like Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Set everything into the to the AI tool, and then sent it to his son. And it sounded like a voicemail from The Rock. Now, to me, that blew my mind. And that's, of course, an example for a kid, but imagine that in the hands of a cyber criminal. And that's what's happening nowadays. And those tendencies for human error to end up in a successful cyber attack for emails now add voice clones and deep fakes. Of course, that rate of success is going to increase, most likely skyrocket. Now, these are just a few examples of how AI can add additional risk to your organization, but also you can utilize AI to protect your company as well. Now, this tool, an EDR, goes by a few different names. EDR stands for Endpoint Detection and Response, but you may have heard MEDR, Managed Endpoint Detection and Response, XDR. There's a few different names that it goes by, but this is a security tool that utilizes artificial intelligence as well as machine learning. And we'll talk about machine learning here in a second, but it utilizes both of those to, one, detect, identify, and overall respond to behavior-based threats. Now, I say behavior-based threats because to separate from antivirus, which relies solely on known malicious virus signatures, this EDR doesn't just rely on searching for those virus signatures. It detects any and all abnormal or anomalous behavior that's going on a workstation or a SCADA device or a server, your overall network, whatever that tool's on. And for example, and Tom, you actually shared this example with me. Say when you get an email and there's a Word document attached or a PDF file attached. You open that email and you click on that Word document. Once you click on that Word document, if it's a normal Word doc, there's specific behavior and activities that should happen every single time you open that Word document. But say it is a malicious, it's coming from a phishing email and that PDF is a malicious file that you weren't aware of. When you click on it, it may pull up as a normal document on your screen, but in the background, it may try to encrypt certain files or folders in the background, or maybe gain admin credentials or access or send out information to a third party or another source. Now, of course, that activity or those actions are not normal. That's definitely anomalous behavior. And so the regular antivirus, if that document didn't contain any virus signatures, a regular antivirus wouldn't detect that threat. And so by utilizing the EDR tool, it analyzed and detected that weird or abnormal behavior, isolated that specific workstation that's occurring on, so it doesn't affect all of the other workstations that are on that network. And then immediately in seconds goes into analyzing that threat, getting rid of that threat, and also that's where your cybersecurity team comes in as well. Now, I want to make a point of this because we do have a lot of people listening today. If you don't take anything else away from this webinar, this is the one thing you need to write down and that you need to implement immediately. But you need, in today's time and next month and the next year, you need to implement an EDR on your network as soon as possible. That is the number one tool that you need to start with to overall protect your company, your organization, your water utility, your law firm. That is the number one tool that you need to protect your company and overall to stay ahead of the curve of overall cyber attacks. Now, if you have
I want to expand on that just a little bit.
Yeah.
So what Devin's talking about is the storyline of a typical ransomware attack. And it could be any type of attack, but ransomware is the number one thing we all have to be looking out for. It's most likely to happen to you. And that's an actual term in the industry, the storyline of an attack. And this AI-based endpoint detect and respond, it goes by other names, and you really need managed endpoint detect and response. So you've got InfoSec professionals, looking into the intrusion and investigating and everything. But these tools look at storylines. They don't need a virus signature. Modern day ransomware attack, everything it needs is built into Microsoft Windows, Microsoft Office, or the equivalent on a Mac.
Mm-hmm.
And so because it learns as it goes, it knows the storyline. It can predict an imminent attack, virus or no virus. And that is what makes it so unique and so good. And these have been around for years. Okay. Now, antivirus is 30-plus-year-old technology. It was created back in the day when hackers did their hacking for bragging rights. Tell their buddies how they created Michelangelo and all of this. But this is a big industry. It's done for money mostly. Even if it's nation state actors, North Korea and Iran, send out ransomware attacks because they need US dollars to buy goods and services on the black market. But it really is a game changer. And it's the only effective measure to stop modern ransomware attacks. Almost any ransomware attack these days is not going to be detected by a common consumer grade antivirus.
No, that's spot on. Now, of course, we're talking about artificial intelligence and AI, but also on the machine learning side of things. What does a Tesla have to do with cybersecurity or AI, machine learning? So when we talk about
it's just as cool as EDR with artificial intelligence for one thing. But here's the deal. I love this analogy because it's a real life analogy. Those of you that own a Tesla with autopilot and you use it, and it dramatically improves day over day. Every time you drive it, it learns more and more about the roads that it's going down, and the next driver that goes down it, that autopilot works better because it uses a neural net. It's nothing to download to the Tesla about the conditions it's driving in. Okay. It knows through its cameras and other cars that have autopilot or whatever they call it. It's a neural net. Same thing with an EDR.
Mhm.
So it's all in the cloud. So what that means, just like a Tesla following another Tesla, both on autopilot, the one behind is a little bit smarter than the one in front. An EDR that detects a brand new storyline of an attack within minutes, every agent of that EDR around the globe knows what to look for on that new storyline of an attack. It's nothing to download. It's all in the cloud in this big AI or machine learning servers. It just knows. And it's kind of really cool. I think Sentinel-1 says within seconds.
Yeah.
But literally within minutes, it can identify and it knows exactly how to respond to any new storyline or any new threat. It's really cool stuff. And the same way, that's how your Tesla works if you have one, or you got a GMC, what do they call it? Super Cruise.
Yeah.
Or a GM car. And I forgot what Ford's is, but you get my point. They're all like that. They all use a neural net to learn more about the highway conditions and the driver behavior and many, many other things. Actually, the best thing about it is all the other cars' behaviors.
Yeah. And the important thing to tie in is that as we talk about continuously adapting and advancing your security, that's what this EDR is doing, continuously learning, continuously adapting and searching for new threats and being able to detect new threats 24/7 around the clock. And like you said, in seconds. And especially when we're talking about cyber attacks, seconds matter. And so if a threat is on there for a minute, that could cost you millions. If it's on there instead for 5 seconds, may not cost you anything because of the tools you have in place to detect and stop that threat. Now, as we continue our talk about AI, I told you and I promised I would talk about ChatGPT. And so some of you may know what ChatGPT is, some of you may not, but overall it's a chatbot tool that uses artificial intelligence to allow you to have basically like a human-like conversation and you with this chatbot tool where you can ask it questions, you can ask it to help you with tasks or figure out problems. It can be used to write essays, emails, or even code, and sometimes malicious code. And so, of course, there's a free version to the public, but the reason I bring up ChatGPT is because this is an example of how easily accessible AI is to everyone. And this is an easy example of how accessible AI can be used for malicious activity and overall how threats can be created using AI. this is a tool that's open for everybody. But of course, there's pros and cons to it as well. And Tom, I know you have your thoughts on ChatGPT and different ways it can be used as well.
Sure. We have a real life example of a ChatGPT phishing email.
Yeah.
It happened in February. I think it was like their first attempt at creating one. And basically, it was an email that purported to be from Kinsey, our chief marketing officer. And the email, highly personalized, sent to an accounting person, asking them for an aged accounts receivable report. And it had her signature on there, her email, and everything else on it. Well, coincidentally, it also had her title. Okay. ChatGPT data goes through about halfway through the year 2021, and her title had changed after that. So that's how we knew that it was a ChatGPT generated email, or at least confidence was high. And there were some other little things in it too, but you could tell it was an automatically generated, targeted attack. And they knew, and you can go into ChatGPT and say, who works for Tom Kirkham?
Yeah.
And what's number one on the list? I believe it's you, isn't it, Davin?
I think so. My face is.
Yeah, you're in the top 3 anyway. And it identifies those relationships. And when you realize that 95% of successful breaches are a con job, that's all it is. There's all these fancy names for it, social engineering and psychological manipulation. At the end of the day, it's a con job. It's a scam. Now you can see where that 95% is going to go higher and higher and higher. Now, I'm not going to get into the ramifications of artificial intelligence and, taking over the world stuff and Terminator movies and all of that. But I mean, we're not even close to all that stuff yet, I hope. But it's going to be used. It's uncontrollable. And that's a perfect example. And probably we've received others, but they were so good, I just, you couldn't tell.
Yeah. No, but it brings us to the point of why we overall need AI-based protection, how we can and why we need to use it for to protect ourselves and our organizations. And it's really broken down into to 3 areas. One, you have to update your current security to overall protect against modern day threats. We'll say it over and over again. Threats are changing and your security measures have to change too. But also, antivirus simply just isn't enough anymore. It doesn't cut it. But overall, your organization is at risk more than ever before in today's time. And of course, that risk is only going to increase unless you make the proper changes. But really, what's at stake to your organization? Because you may take this information, you would say, okay, I understand that AI is a threat, and I understand that I need an EDR. I need an endpoint detection and response tool, but it's not an immediate threat to me. I'll wait and I'll get it next year. Well, that doesn't cut it anymore either, because it's not a matter of if you'll experience a cyber attack. Now it's a matter of when. And simple fact, you can read it on the screen there, but 60% of businesses go out of business within 2 years of an attack. And so business owners, CEOs, employees, of course, I know you don't plan or want to look for another job in the next 2 years. And if it's avoidable, there's things that you can do to avoid having to close shop and put your customers in a bind of finding someone else. There's things that you can do, and why would you not take those proper steps and do your due diligence to, one, protect your company, your employees, but also your clients as well. Because just without closing doors out of the equation, there's a lot more at risk as well. And a lot of these factors affect different industries more than others. Loss of reputation and respect, especially if you're a law firm. Reputation is everything, and you can't really put a price tag on that. Fines, compliancy requirements, those go hand in hand, especially in the health industry or critical infrastructure. Overall downtime and the cost of not only paying the ransomware, but also the cost of being down 2 days, 3 days, maybe even a day. You can't put a price on that yet, but of course, that's something that you and most likely everyone on this webinar wants to avoid. And if it can be avoided, why not? And so where do you start? Take all this information in and what do you do with it? Well, 3 simple steps. Get a security and risk assessment done. From that security and risk assessment, take it seriously and review those results. Figure out what you need to put in place to fill those potential gaps that you may have. And then the most important step is that 3rd step there, take action. Do with that information what you should do and do not wait. And regarding that 1st step of performing a security and risk assessment, we actually offer a free cybersecurity and risk assessment to all of you here. And that free assessment, it doesn't take very long, basically about 2 meetings, range from 30 minutes to 45 an hour. And in that, we'll review and evaluate your current infrastructure. Like I said, and you'll be working with me to understand what you currently have, any potential vulnerabilities regarding tools, practices, policies you have in place. And then from that, we'll give you digestible information. You can see an example of what that assessment will look like. Break it down to what you need to implement or what you need to address immediately with those red areas, yellow or those sections that definitely need to be improved, and then green are things that you're already doing well. And of course, the goal is to get you to 100% completely secure organization with all green squares overall, making sure all the gaps that you have or potentially have are addressed. Now, of course, we'll stay on here to answer any questions, but overall, if you want that assessment or if you have questions about that assessment or overall, hey, I actually am still relying on antivirus. I know that I need something different. I need that EDR. Just reach out and I'll talk with you, talk to you how to implement that, how we can help you and overall provide you the cybersecurity that you need.
Yeah. And I want to add a few things while everybody's typing in all their questions.
Definitely.
About the Terminator movies or whatever it
yeah.
may be. But you heard Davin mentioned several times about the game has changed, basically. Modern threats are different than what they were just a few years ago. And I wanted to explain why for those of you that haven't heard me talk about it before. Almost every nation state on earth has cyber warfare departments. We have the NSA. We have U.S. Cyber Command, the Army, the Navy. They all have cyber warfare units. In fact, we should have created a cyber force before we created a space force. But regardless, one of those units that I mentioned is the NSA, National Security Administration. They were breached 5 or 6 years ago or 7 years ago. Their offensive cyber weapons and the source code to them was stolen, and it's all available for free on the dark web. Other nation states' cyber warfare tools have been stolen and are available as well. And that's what triggered this big change. That's because they're specifically designed to avoid detection, misdirect, not do anything suspicious. Like many of you may remember the Stuxnet virus that we used to damage a centrifuges in Iran's nuclear enrichment facility. It had all of these different stealth components. And they are using those tools each and every second of each and every day worldwide against us. It's a different defensive world. And the other things that that Davin has been talking about are these are international standards. Doing the assessment and then fixing your vulnerabilities and exploits, that's the first 2 steps in the NIST cybersecurity framework.
Gold standard.
Implementing an EDR with information security professionals monitoring and responding and mitigating and remediating threats and investigating forensically once the threat has subsided or it's been killed. These advanced tools don't work on their own by themselves. They have to be configured, deployed, monitored, and sometimes they don't always kill off an attack. They'll slow it down, but that's where the InfoSec professionals come in. And this is from the White House. It's best practices. And it's not because we sell these services, right? Just buying an EDR, if you think about that as a product and you just need EDR, you also need that monitoring. You've got to have that response. It's like buying an alarm system. It really doesn't do a whole lot of good unless somebody's monitoring and dispatching police. Okay.
Yes.
So, and the best of EDRs will not work 100%. If the NSA can be breached, anybody can be breached. So our objective, and any company in our business, our objective is to get you from, say, a 10% or a 15% chance of you having a breach in any given year down to that 0.1 or 0.01% chance. That's the goal of all of these different tools and services that a managed security service provider provides.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of explain to you why the game has changed. This isn't something that we made up. It's, there's a real world reason, and we see these attempted attacks every single day. Your router is likely to be under attack every single day, every minute of every day, and you probably don't even know it. So make no mistake, this is a clear and present danger to each and every one of us. And that's why these standards are out there. That's why so many people talk about cybersecurity. And having said that, I'll get off my soapbox now.
No, those are great points. And if you want to hear more about anything specific that we talked about today, please feel free to reach out. We consider ourselves an asset to anyone and everyone that wants to learn or overall increase their security posture. So feel free to reach out. The contact information is on the screen. And overall, we look forward to talking to you and hopefully talk to you here soon in the future.